No, I haven't seen that one. Oh, no, what is her name again? Poppy, that's right. That's quite a little headband you got going there.
It's almost a hat.
It's almost a hat. I'm like, is that like the Queen of England on her baby there?
I think so, yeah.
You've been in Southern 3 years.
I'll call the meeting to order. It looks like the time has, the clock has spun on the wall. Before we get into the meeting, I want to recognize our newest governor, Governor T. Mark Elliott. T. Mark, the floor is yours.
Wow. You sure you want to do that?
Yeah, my friend.
Well, I'm excited about serving, and I've been out of public life for almost 20 years, and I want to try to be very careful. Mr. Gibson is my moral compass, so.
Yeah.
But no, I'm excited about being here, and I told Dr. Marble that thinking about my experience when I was on campus back here and worrying about whether I still have parking tickets outstanding. But I hope this is, when my term's up, and I know a lot of y'all feel the same way, but I hope we're able to leave it in a better place than when I started. I'm just excited about being here, open for all kinds of help.
But I can assure you, Governor Elliott, I fixed your parking tickets when I fixed mine. It's in pretty good shape. You too, Bill. Brad, you're still in trouble.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Governor Elliott. We have before you the minutes of the June 14th meeting. I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Governor Plotnick, second. Second. Governor Haley. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by like sign? Motion carried. Next order of business, a report from our treasurer, Ms. Linda Ice. Linda?
Thank you and good afternoon. We're going to take a look at the financial statements from August of 2018 for the month. We are reflecting cash at $12.5 million, which is an increase over the prior year of about $2.4 million. The next thing we take a look at is the statement of net position, and we have total assets of $183 million, total liabilities of $100 million, total net assets at $83 million. On the statement of net positions, you can see that there's some activity on there from accounts receivable, and obviously in August we have the fall semester starting with students coming back and paying on their bills. In September, and Darren may speak to this a little bit, we have a lot of activity that takes place in September, and so we have issued refunds out to students of over 3,000 refunds at about $6.2 million, and a lot of those were e-refunds, so we continue to have students sign up for e-refunds, and it helps them get their refunds a little bit faster, and a lot of happy students out there. The next thing that we take a look at is the comparative statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. We have total operating revenue that shows an increase of $417,000. A big piece of that obviously is our tuition line. That's a little over $1 million. Of course, that's from our tuition increase this year. Total operating expenses reflect a decrease of $137,000. One piece of this is timing on the other operating expense line. We have timing on an insurance payment. For the current year, that's in September, and last year that was in August. Our non-operating revenues show an increase of $281,000, and within that section, it reflects the one-time funding that we've received from the state of Missouri this year. For the full year, to be about $970,000, which we will receive $80,000 a month, because that's paid out each month when we draw down the appropriation dollars. In the current year, we show an income before the revenues of $17.3 million. The prior year reflects $16.5, and that gives us a difference of an increase of over $800,000. capital appropriations there. That's the state reimbursement for the Reynolds and Nixon Hall project. And I have recently submitted a reimbursement for over $400,000, and they continue to pay those promptly to us each time that I submit those. We do have a couple other things going on in our office. We had the auditors on campus for 2 weeks in August, and that is continuing to move forward. We're pretty well just buttoning up the final items on that, and we are on track to present that at the November board meeting. The other thing that we're working on is this is the year for the agreed upon procedures for the NCAA, the athletic piece. And so that will take place in November, and we work with the athletics office heavily to get that done, and that's done every 3 years. And then one of the other things we talked about as we move forward, we will continue to work on how we want to have the finance presentation to provide some additional information that the board wants to review as we move forward. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Questions from this side? I'd entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second.
Treasurer Flanagan, Governor Plotnick. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by like sign? Motion carried. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Next up is VP for Business Affairs, Mr. Yost.
Thank you. Go over a brief construction report. Dixon Hall being the star project at this time. The contractor is preparing exterior for the installation of brick and metal and concrete panels that will make up the exterior skin of the building to that point. Sky bridge is in, and the first and ground levels are almost completely framed in at this point. Rough in for the duct and the fire sprinkler and electrical. Those are going on all through the whole building, so we're right on the schedule. Installation of the exterior windows should begin in about 2 weeks, and when the project should be completed in time for next spring semester opening classes. The residence hall, we've had ongoing discussions about the possibility of a new residence hall. We have landed on a site. We looked at approximately 12 different sites, and the site that is probably the most favorable to build a new residence hall is on a parking lot on the northeast corner of the campus. That's behind the current residence halls. And currently we're looking at designs and configurations of how that facility will look, so we're still in the early stages of that. We don't know if it's going to be a single, multi-story, multi-building. Most likely it's, I don't mind to say, we don't know yet. Darren can chime in, but it's still out up in the open for that. And finally, the oldie but goodie, the trail project. This week, we finally finalized the contract with the city on the trail. So we are. All parties are in agreement now. So hopefully this thing will break ground here sometime in the upcoming months, or who knows. Anyway, that's it.
Any questions for Mr. Yost? Thank you, Rob. Next up is our athletic director, Mr. Brockman.
Thank you. I do have a few points I'll cover. First, I wanted to mention the cross-country program as far as we recently hosted the 29th annual Missouri Southern Stampede at the Tom Rutledge cross-country golf course. It's one of the largest meets in the United States. This year we drew nearly 3,000 runners in 10 different races. It starts at 8 a.m. and gets over about, last race is about 12:30. The Southern men finished second overall behind the University of Tulsa. We had a freshman, Gideon Kimutai. It's really hard to say, I know, but he's a freshman, actually finished second, just a few seconds behind the leader. The Southern women were ninth at that, and now we're going to be competing this next weekend into Chili Pepper. But I do want to thank all the folks that were involved in that. With 3,000 spectators, or 3,000 competitors, plus a number of spectators, takes a lot of people on campus and a lot of folks to make that all work. And so it's great for the community. We're very proud and happy to host that event. But it also takes a lot of work, so I want to thank everybody publicly that was a part of that, including UPD and a lot of other folks. Community service-wise, a little report here. Routinely we ask our student athletes to do 10 hours of community service per year. A few things that recently have taken place. The women's basketball and track and field teams both helped out with the Ronald McDonald House Big Red Shoe Run. Softball volunteered at the Joplin Humane Society by walking and washing the dogs, and baseball is assisting with delivery of meals on wheels every Wednesday. Men's basketball made a visit to West Central Elementary and read books to the elementary students, and football participated in the Alzheimer's walk, and all of those received press coverage on the local news. And so they're out there in the community, they're engaging and doing the things that we've asked them to do, besides just participate on the field and in the classroom. So we're very excited about that. NCAA, just some informational things with the NCAA. We're collaborating with the Student Affairs Office, Julie's area, and the ACTS office to bring high energy interactive production called Think Fast to our campus. The type of program meets the directives from the NCAA board, which regards Title IX training and sexual violence training, obviously a big issue throughout the country, but as well as in the athletics world. So they'll be here on September 24th at 7 p.m. and it's mandatory for student athletes to attend. It's mandated by the NCAA. So we're working with the other departments on campus with that. Linda already mentioned this, but BKD will be on campus this fall to do our agreed upon procedures audit. It takes place every 3 years. And so they will be here. We'll be working with the auditors on going through all that. SAC is our Student Athlete Advisory Council. There are 26 members. They meet twice a month. This year they've picked the initiative called We Care, which stands for Wellness, Education, Compassion, Athletics, Respect, and Engagement. In order to meet these initiatives, they're working with the biggest community engagement event, the Trick or Treat So Others Can Eat, which will be taking place in October. This event will be held the last week in October. If you remember last year, that produced a little over 6,000 non-perishable items for a local food pantry. So that is their initiative this next month, and every month they come up with another one. This last month it was to kind of get to know each other, so they took over the football field and had some activities and worked with everybody on that. If you have not been over to the football stadium, we have a new video board. It's rather large. We've already used that several times besides just at the football game. It's been used for events that we host at the North End Zone. We actually used it at the Stampede. You can believe it or not, you can see it from the start and finish line of the Stampede. It's still very substantial there. So it is the third largest board in Division 2. We're going to continue to utilize that as much as possible. We have talked with the city. They do a community movie night that they do in a park. We will take a few of those opportunities. They want to keep some of them local so they can engage those parts of the city, of course. But having a high-def, large video board available for them, we're really looking forward to working with them, and they've agreed to that as well, so we'll continue to engage the community with that. The last thing I just want to mention is the linebackers. Our campaign has been undergoing for a few months now. We have currently set at 257 members. And we have an influx normally before the beginning of the basketball season. Some folks linebackers are really big basketball fans. So we're anticipating our numbers to grow, and we feel very confident we're going to set a new benchmark. So it's pretty exciting to see the community and our boosters and supporters coming out and engaging with us financially, as well as in buying tickets and attending our events. So that concludes my report, unless there's any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Brugman?
Jared, when we allow our facilities to be used by other groups in the community, do we charge them a fee for maintenance and lights and electricity and all that, or how does that work?
There is a rental fee, depending upon what the facility is. For example, Leggett Platt, with the closing of certain facilities around the community, Leggett Platt has become the largest facility that you can rent, so you'll see more of that. The bigger groups there, not just the chamber event, but there's other groups that want to rent that. So yes, they do pay a rental fee. We just reviewed that rental fee. It was approved by President's Cabinet, I think 2 weeks ago, to change some of those rates, because we want to be competitive rates. We also don't want to have people always coming to us and then people in town that own those businesses being upset that we're lowballing, because we're not really in the business for that. It's really a community activity that we're available for. So we're not trying to make any money. We're not trying to do anything. It's just service.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Jared. Next up is our Executive Vice President, Dr. Brad Hodson.
Good afternoon, everyone. You have a copy of my report in your packet. I'll go over a few things from that report at the bottom of page 1. It is the September Board of Governors meeting, and so we traditionally report out enrollment from the census, which was taken last Friday. You can see that head count was officially recorded at 6,006 students. That is a decrease of 2.7%. and enrolled credit hours were at 69,771, which was a decrease of 3.4%. You'll also recall from previous budget and audit committee meetings, we budgeted a 5% decrease in enrolled hours because we knew the above CPI tuition increase would have an impact. We knew the smaller sizes of some local high school classes that are traditional feeder schools would have a ripple effect, and then also the strong economy, low unemployment would have an impact on enrollment. So we budgeted a 5% decrease, but enrolled hours ended up only being 3.4% decrease. So we did make budget on our enrollment for the fall. At the top of page 1, you can also see we had a very good year last year in charitable giving. We saw a 20% increase in total gifts, which was a total of $3.3 million. We also saw an increase in the number of donors making gifts. That was up 26%. And then below that, you can see that the alumni giving ticked up significantly due to our efforts to populate the database and become much more aggressive in our annual giving campaigns. And so you can see the results of those efforts. On page 2, I would like for you to meet very soon Michael Sanders, who is our new Dean of Admissions. Michael is not with us today. He is in Chicago recruiting students, and I'll come to that next. But Michael comes to us from the University of Idaho, where he was the director of recruitment for that 4-campus system. And he's been here a little over a month and has already made a very positive impact on the admissions operation. I'll make sure Michael comes to the November meeting so you get a chance to meet him. But talking about the Chicago market, he is there this week recruiting students. There are a number of college fairs in Chicago. And you can see that on average each year, the 8 counties that make up the Chicago metropolitan area graduate 87,500 roughly high school students. That's 67%, 2/3 of all the high school graduates in Illinois are in metropolitan Chicago. And so for that reason, the university has allowed admissions to add a full-time, on-the-ground Chicago recruiter. And Michael is in the process of hiring for that position to be present in Chicago and try to tap into those roughly 90,000 high school graduates every year. We are extremely price competitive with the public institutions in Illinois. You can see that our tuition was less than half of the average for the Illinois public universities last year. So we feel like we have a great story to tell. We have strong academic programs, we're price competitive, and there is an abundant amount of high school graduates in Chicago, and we're going to try to get a recruiter up there to see if we can draw those down to Missouri Southern. On page 3, you can see that the Missouri Southern Foundation is inching very close to transferring over $1 million in scholarship money to Missouri Southern students. We were at $981,231 last fiscal year. That's an 18% increase over prior fiscal years. And also there's a review there of our gift fee revenue, which was nearly double what it was the previous year, which allows us to finance projects like the database acquisition, the acquisition of new names into the database, the more aggressive annual fund campaign, a lot of the things we're doing that you're seeing have a ripple effect in total dollars received and number of donors making gifts are financed by that gift fee. So I wanted to make sure you had a summary of that. And then finally on the back page, tonight is Third Thursday, and faculty and staff across campus, particularly our folks in university relations and marketing, are preparing for another massive crowd downtown. Missouri Southern is the sponsor of Third Thursday this evening, and so if you and your family would like to come out and walk up and down 2nd to 7th Street on Main, there will be many faculty and staff with booths and tables about their programs and their services and engaging the Joplin community in Third Thursday, and that begins tonight at 5:30.
Any questions for Dr. Hodson?
I have a question, and I don't know if it would be for you or for Darren. I'm curious as to, when you said admissions, that's what led me to think about this. In terms of tours of Missouri Southern that new students would come on and get, I assume those are student run, is that?
They are. We have student ambassadors that take prospective students on a tour of the campus.
And how often would that happen?
They happen twice a week, is my understanding. But it ebbs and flows depending on demand. As we get through the summer, there are far more of them. This time of year, there aren't as many. But on average, they'll give them at least 2 times a week.
So is it like a registration type thing, or is it just a by chance thing?
We would like for you to register, but we accept all walk-ins. But many of the students will register, because particularly if they're coming from farther afield than just Joplin or Webb City or Carl Junction. But anyone that walks in can participate in the tour. And quite honestly, if someone walks in when there's not a tour scheduled or the tour's already left, we'll find someone to give them a tour. So it's pretty much on demand.
And in terms of like training for that?
They go through an extensive training process. The script is actually standardized, and so the admissions department determines where they will visit and what will be talked about at each stop. And so the students will memorize that and give roughly the same tour, but as you and I both know, having had kids attend college, the questions from the parents, the questions from prospective students do take the conversation in different directions. And we try to hire students that can go with the flow and answer questions and not just stick to the script. But it's a fairly standardized tour.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Hudson? Thank you, Brad. To the Provost and VP of Academic Affairs, Dr. Carson.
Thank you. Thank you all. I'm really excited to see you all back. We're off to a very good start of the year. And I looked at some things that I covered last year, and I realized no matter what handouts I put in your packets, I always stop talking and run out of time to go over them. So I wanted to share some things with you all and then go to my pretty brief report. First, in your packet behind my report, we have the new certificates. This is not a complete list of our new certificates, but almost none of these existed more than 9 or 10 months ago, really, quite frankly. And we have others. Just this week, we had an honor certificate. We're working on a medical humanities, real close to submitting a sustainability certificate. But our emphasis on these micro-credentials continues to grow. One, because there is student demand for them. And two, because we have the existing bandwidth to be efficient in operating them, and three, because they really differentiate us in terms of our offerings. These are true credentials, so for performance-based funding or other outcome measures, these will count for us. And we have tried to structure them in a way that students can attain these additional certificate credentials without any additional hours. In some cases, maybe a couple, but without any. So we're very proud of that, and I'm very thankful to the faculty for being really innovative and interdisciplinary in offering these certificates. We also, at the beginning of our year, at our all academic affairs meeting, recognized faculty years of service, and we wanted to share this with you all as well. We do have one 20-year recipient in the audience with us today, Dean Marcy Archer, but the others are here, and we recognize them with nice mementos. And we also have our welcome new faculty. So very proud of this portfolio of faculty. It is, our recruiting year was amazing. We recruited people very, very intellectually diverse from a lot of different geographic regions. Super proud for you all to look at the credentials, where they come from, what they have accomplished, and it was one of our largest and most successful faculty recruiting classes in a very long time. On my report, I have it as an entry, and I have a picture there as well. We very much tried to step up really the new faculty orientation and ensure that the faculty, every minute from the time they arrived in Joplin until time they stepped into their very, very first class, that we in academic affairs were responsible for making sure that they were proud of their choice, they were pleased with their choice, that we were a university of choice for them, and that there was nothing about their decision, no other options that they had any concern about at all. So we did some really special things. One of the things I wanted to share with you all is we're very grateful to Brad Belk, who was in Brett Hudson's team, who led us on a very special tour of Joplin. Most of these faculty are not from Joplin, and we really wanted them to understand the integral role and respect that we have for what we do to the community and for the community, and our responsibility we have toward them. So we had a very special tour, scripted it, went to a lot of places, even just Joplinites almost never get to go to. The mayor met us. We rented one of those pink buses. We went and looked at the Bonnie and Clyde bullet holes on the inside. And it was a truly remarkable experience. And I want to really express my appreciation to Brad Belk for really going above and beyond. We went on a little hike, everything. And I think that was great. I thank the faculty for working so diligently and successfully on recruiting. And finally, you have the Nordic Semester. The Nordic Semester is our single biggest theme semester, certainly in the recent future. We have over 50 events, several of these actually being led by our own faculty members, but a lot of disciplinary expertise and really neat things from all over. We've already had quite a few because there's such a catalog of them, but I wanted to make sure you all receive this today and make sure you know you are very, very welcome as well. You also will have the passport, and the films for the movie Passport are listed in the back of this brochure. You're welcome to those as well. The passport is something we do for our students to encourage attendance and recognize and reward them for going. So some things have already occurred, some things are ongoing, many events coming up, and we would love to see you all at any of those. So to my report, on concurrent enrollment, we had a record year for concurrent enrollment. It was really phenomenal. For the past 5 or 6 years, we have more than doubled, but just from last year, we were up over 100 students. So we have a record number, over 600. We have several new high schools, not just from what we would traditionally define as our regional catchment area, but from farther away in different parts of Missouri, and we also have a variety of very new classes. We're working very diligently. It's a state initiative, but also it's a very good recruiting tool for us. We're very interested in retaining more of those students to come to Missouri Southern. We are diligent, meticulous about making sure the quality is high. Our faculty go to the high schools and work with their teachers. All of our teachers are in full compliance, way ahead of schedule with regard to their credentials. And we're beginning to develop a program of special activities to which we will invite only or invite first our dual credit concurrent enrollment students. So our first one, we are in the planning stages of developing for our criminal justice recruiting program, sort of a crime scene investigation day, and we will reach out to our dual credit students first. We already know they're aspirational to attend college. We're hoping to do a lot of other special things for them and make them feel a real important part of this cohort. So we're very appreciative of the high school's trust in our ability to do this, and that's led by Brett Meeker, and I'm very grateful to her for her efforts as well. You'll also know, because we talk all the time about all the opportunities to bring middle and high school students on campus, and I wanted to introduce you to a brand new one, and this is one that will bring about 700 to 800 students to our campus in April, and it is the State Technology Student Association Conference. We have long hosted the Regional Student Technology Association Conference, but this will be the first year that we have the opportunity to host the state conference, and we're very excited about that. It will be a traditional competition, but when we have those students here, we work diligently to make sure they have opportunities to look at other programs, other parts of our campus. Under the guise of entertaining them, we sneak in some academic hints about recruiting and some other things. So we're working on what else they will see while they're here on our campus, and we're real pleased that they have the opportunity. Dr. Elka Howe is leading the initiative for engineering technology. And then some other things that you'll be hearing about in the coming weeks and months. This morning, I'm very grateful to the Academic Affairs Subcommittee for supporting our 1819 Faculty Handbook. There are 2 more handbooks. Now that we got the hang of this handbook thing, 2 more handbooks that we are going to be bringing to you. One is a graduate program handbook, because we have obviously exponentially grown graduate programs and graduate students, and it's time for us to be a little bit more formal so we can have a solid foundation for innovating and 3+2s and 4+1s and the like. And then distance learning handbook. We want to make sure that in distance learning, and thankful Scott's going to present on our growth in that area later on in the meeting, but we're very excited about our growth in both the quantity and the quality of our online offerings. And so we want to make sure that when all these new people come in, all these new faculty, that they really do understand what our expectations are for quality delivery and online. So we're developing that as well. You all know, because we've talked for a couple of years now about the Yours Lose program of KCU, but we have reached the point in the relationship where we're beginning to expand beyond that. There are a couple of things that we're doing. KCU now has fully populated what was formerly a lab classroom in the Reynolds Annex with their equipment. The researchers are coming over here, their grad students are looking at actually hiring perhaps a full-time technician to be in residence here on our campus in their research lab. And it is KCU's primary research lab. They do not have one on their campus over there by Maiden Lane. So we are very excited. We think it could be very collaborative and enriching for both. And to that end, we're sort of having a faculty research meet and greet, if you will, with them. And it's going to be October 5th from 3 to 5. Their faculty and our faculty are developing a template of research interest areas of overlap where they're looking for help, what they need, what they have, And faculty members from each campus are going to have 4 minutes each to present in a very speed style format, and then we're going to have a little social after to try and really facilitate formal networks with KCU. We're also doing with KCU as well as Freeman and Mercy and several of our academic programs, the first Community Health Day. It will be held at the mall from 2 to 8 p.m. probably. And we are going to invite the public for free and work in those interdisciplinary teams and do a variety of things, screening and BMI and flu shots and just a whole variety of different traditional health screenings, whatever it is we can offer. Even perhaps have social workers there, dental hygienists, and that is being led by Dr. Schooler. And we're really looking forward to working with our community partners on that and maybe making that an annual event. We also have been accepted into round 2 of something called the National Student Exchange. We're members of the International Student Exchange, but as you know, as much as we value our global mission, we recognize that there are some students that have to start off domestic. You know, we're funding those domestic travel trips, and we're interested in this National Student Exchange so that our students will have the opportunity to go to other schools within the 50 United States as well as the Caribbean for a semester, for a short-term visit, and we will take theirs. I won't bore you with the financial details, but because we're such a low-cost institution, it will be very financially advantageous to do this. We won't really even have to limit the number of students. And the National Student Exchange does not have a geographically positioned institution like us, and so we thought it would maybe be a year process. Dr. Stebbins completed the application, submitted it, and they let us know probably within 3 weeks that we had made it to round 2. So we are very excited. In November, they're coming down to check us out, make sure that they can give us their seal of approval. They'll look at housing, they'll look at food services, academic programs, our student health center, all of those things that make important for them to be able to say, we recommend your students go there. It's Friday is coming up as well, as a minuscule picture there, but it is on October 19th. And as always, we would love to have you guys. It's at 3 o'clock in the library reading room on that day. And the title is Building a Republic. And it will be a presentation by 3 of our faculty members, a historian, a political scientist, and kind of a political theorist who actually took a group of students on a shared trip to the East Coast, to Washington, D.C., and they're going to talk about their experiences and how those different perspectives really enriched all faculty from our social science department. Awesome faculty, and it'll be a great program. We did a Lions Welcome, another brand new thing we did this first time. It was a very organic initiative that was conceptualized by some of our faculty and staff, and I said, hey, you know, why don't we just have people clearly available to help students on the first couple of days of class? And it started as a relatively simple sort of thing, evolved, and then we had vest, and then we had big Ask Me on the vest, and then we had little kiosk, and then we had golf carts to drive students around. And I think there was really nothing that was more motivational or built more camaraderie for the students and the faculty and staff than this little event that turned into a really big something. And then building started saying, well, we'll have a welcome center in ours, and many students took advantage of it. Very, very excited about it, and we plan to really continue it and grow it because I think everyone benefited, all of our students and all of our campus staff. Brad mentioned Third Thursday is tonight, but is my last point. I have a photo on here of a jar of honey, and that's our honey. It's our very first honey. If you guys remember, it wasn't very long ago that I brought to you a proposal that we were pursuing by a biology faculty member. And she had this crazy idea to work with the Joplin Beekeepers Association to bring some bees to our prairie, which is a natural prairie. And we started with a small little number of bees. And Dr. Katie Kelmer went and engaged a lot of professional development, got herself one student to work with, and our bees increased like 400% in a very short amount of time, and we didn't think we would harvest anything. But we harvested 60 of these little jars of honey, and in a very, very short time, and we really just couldn't be more thrilled about it. And the program is going to sell it tonight at Third Thursday, our little jars of honey, and they're going to use it to reinvest in the program and buy them some more, bee stuff. that they need for more bees. So just super proud when we can see the dreams become a realization, and I just want to share that with you. So thank you.
It is a technical term, bee
Bee
stuff.
stuff, yeah. Higher science.
Are there any questions for Dr. Carr? Thank you, Paula. Congratulations, Dean Archer, 20 years. Next is our Vice President for Student Affairs, Mr. Fullerton.
You have my report in front of you, so I'll just scan through a couple things. Wanted to brag on career services and multiple staff across campus assisted with this, from staff in academic administrative assistants to fiscal plant. We had 132 businesses and or nonprofits from the greater Joplin area show up for Community Day. We basically lined the sidewalks on the oval on the front of the campus, provided chairs and tables for these businesses, and then it was really up to them, whatever their imagination. So we had, as you can see from the picture, tents, we had roulette wheels, we had pizza ovens, but 132 businesses and nonprofits, that's the largest ever, were situated on the oval to visit primarily with students, but I can tell you that probably 90% of the faculty staff were there. And you can see in the picture people carrying some bags, and I wished I had a picture of Laura and Connie. I think there were a couple bags they were carrying. And so again, it's just a great opportunity for the entire campus, but it's a great opportunity for these area businesses to come out and share with the campus community what they can provide and what services they provide. And so great opportunity. During that week, and I didn't give you a schedule of this, but we call that Welcome Week. Basically, the Thursday prior to classes starting is when the majority of the students move into the residence halls through that next week. We averaged over 3 events a day to welcome students back to campus during that first week. Everything from movies to the community day to registered student organization day, recruiting members, President's Ice Cream Social, which I think Rob's still complaining his arm hurts from scooping ice cream, but just a wide variety of events. And if you can imagine that, about over 3 events a day during that time frame. One of those events also, we talk about at the bottom of your handout there, the first year student convocation. What a great event. This event is the welcome ceremony. It's the equivalent of commencement for incoming students. They get to come in, their names are announced in their hometown, they cross the stage, Dr. Carson and I greet them, shake their hands, award them with a lion medallion that also has the alma mater on it. They shake the hand of the president, get a photo op, and it's just a tremendous opportunity. Then they go out in the middle of campus, and a photographer takes a group picture of those students. And so, tremendous event for those students and for us as the administration. For the TRIO programs, you'll see in front of you, again, a couple of years ago, I was coming to you saying that there were rumors that TRIO was going away and the feds weren't going to fund it. This year, we were notified we received a 4.25% increase, and so I just listed the budgets there for you. A little over $800,000 total in the 3 federal TRIO programs that we have. And again, just a reminder, if you're not familiar with the TRIO programs, they are aimed at middle school through high school students, and then Project Stay is the college student equivalent of that, to work with students that either are lower socioeconomic or single parent or some category that they would fall into where they qualify for the assistance. And it's to do a wide variety of services for them. One of the events we have coming up is an ACT prep for high school students. And actually we've expanded it to middle school because we have so many middle schoolers taking the ACT these days. And so those programs, we were very fortunate that they did receive an increase. The other information, and Linda alluded to some of the financial information earlier, financial aid awards, I think it's always helpful to give you a rundown of where we are and how we have assisted the students. For the academic year, so far, 3,146 students, over $20 million. 5.6 of that is federal Pell, 9.3 student loans, 3.2 in MSSU scholarships, and those do include the foundation scholarships, anything that's administered by Missouri Southern in those totals. 1.4 million in Missouri Aid, Access Missouri Bright Flight. Linda mentioned the refunds, 6.2 out to students. 927 students on a payment plan with us currently, that's in-house. One of the things, and in the Finance Committee subcommittee this morning, we talked about the huddles and the great game of education and how people are looking at that. Student accounts paid in full prior to the start of the semester or to the point of drop date, census date. That's one of the metrics on the bursar's office. So we had 5,520 students that were paid in full. That's phenomenal, and that's up about 30% from last year. The number of students that we can get paid in full is tremendous. Then we don't spend as much time trying to track that down before the next enrollment period. Some advising numbers there. We have, the advising office has met with 1,645 students from the week prior to classes starting to this point this week. Of those, 1,000 are what we call ACTS advisees. ACTS advisees are the special advisees. They are either the undeclared majors or a Bachelor of General Studies or those sort of things. And then we also had 625 declared majors that for one reason or another ended up in the ACTS office and they visited. The registrar's office, they have articulated 537 transcripts. That means students that either are coming to us or are wanting to come to us have sent us that number of transcripts that we had to evaluate just in the last month. So that definitely good signs. And so as Brad reported on the enrollment, things are going well, and it's an exciting time here at Southern. Hectic fall start, but always a great time to be here. With that, I would entertain any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Fullerton? Thank you, Darren. Our faculty staff president, Dr. Grant Latham.
Before Dr. Latham starts, I would, the board members, you've heard Paul and I talk about this probably half a dozen times, the toolkit, and we remembered that we had not given you actual copies, and so we were told to pass that on to you. I know we've mentioned it in several reports, but your actual copies.
All right, thank you. Dr. Latham.
I apologize for coming in late, so first of all.
We didn't leave.
Okay, all right, that's good. Let's see, 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
So, all right, we're good. So Faculty Senate met on September 10th. We had no old business, so we're just kind of getting started in the semester, and only two pieces of new business. So the first piece was getting liaisons from the Faculty Senate to the Faculty Senate committees. It's the responsibility of each one of those liaisons to then call the first meeting, and during that first meeting select a chair and secretary, and then report back at the following meeting. So all of those were successfully chosen, so that's good. We still have a couple of positions that, elections that are still open, waiting to fill a couple of vacant positions, but those should be finished by Friday, we're hopeful. The second piece of new business was the solicitation for sub-goals that I put out for the faculty to, for each one of the goals that was listed in our new mission, vision, and value statement. And so let me thank the board for their work that you guys put into that. That's a wonderful document that we can all kind of get behind and fill in details, and so thank you very much for that. Solicitation of feedback, hopefully by this Friday, to then the subcommittee responsible for those, myself, Angela Bennett, the staff senate president, and Al Stadler. We'll get together Monday the 24th and start hashing out those details and hopefully provide something that you guys can. Next meeting for Faculty Senate is scheduled for October 1st, and that's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions for Dr. Latham?
Congratulations on the addition to the family.
Oh, yes, thank you. That on Tuesday, my family, we were able to adopt our 3 foster children that we've had since November of last year. So that was an awesome and amazing blessing. So
Congratulations.
we're overjoyed at that.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lee. Our staff Senate President, Mrs. Bennett.
Hi. One thing that we definitely wanted to communicate with you guys is our appreciation. They did the announcement in regards to the increase in our individual funding. So we greatly appreciate that. There was so much behind the scenes that Staff Senate put together to try and get us to where we are competitive with other employers out there and hopefully are more enticing with it being a $10 minimum wage, with all the benefits that we have. That definitely hopefully will bring in a lot more quality staff and faculty. Well, I guess faculty wouldn't want to worry too much about it. But then also second was us currently working on the strategic planning sub-goals as Grant had stated. We have worked diligently on that to try and get that done this month. One of the things that Staff Senate did, we started working on it as soon as you guys gave us that paper on Welcome Back. And we did a special meeting right here yesterday with the smell of bacon at 9 o'clock in the morning. They never brought us any bacon, but it smelled fabulous. But we still ended up getting some sub-goals and got them out to Grant and Al yesterday for that. So hopefully we'll have meeting of the minds on Monday and have something to produce. And then Staff Senate has really worked hard on social media. It seems like that is more of the way that we're going a lot of times. So we have improved our MSSU website. We also have, MSSU has the workplace Facebook page. So Staff Senate has one of those now. And that actually was a place where I put the sub-goals and did my own research and said, hey, here's some ideas, go, so that they could communicate that way if they wanted to, or via email. I've really seen a big communication, getting the word out there that we even exist. A lot of people didn't know Staff Senate didn't exist, which I thought was amazing. But now we're including them on the agenda, saying, hey, this is on our next agenda, come to our meeting, so you know more about it, and hopefully we'll have some more members in the future enticed into it. And then we are also working on the Angel Tree Drive. We are in the very, very preliminary stages. We're going to start taking applications for that. The Angel Tree Drive did fabulous last time. What I saw was that the gifts secured for 92 children, all younger than 18. And one of the criteria for Angel Tree is for Pell Grant recipients, income level, meaning some of the students may not have the money to fill their children's stockings without help from the Angel Tree program. Many of the students are not only young parents, but don't have the advantage of a partner to share the financial load of parenthood. So it helps with that. And so we'll start doing the application process on that and start receiving supply donations and having the Angel Tree out there. So it's a great program that has been very successful. So that's it.
Great. Are there any questions for Mrs. Bennett?
No question but a comment. I think the Angel Tree program is something special. Not only is it a good thing, but you wrap the gifts and give it to the parents, and the parents are then able to give to their kids, which is an extra bonus, I think, for them.
Yeah, we have a company that actually donates some boxes and sometimes even the big roll of wrapping paper and stuff. And we have students that come in as well as faculty and staff that are there all afternoon wrapping presents. So it's fabulous.
Anything else? Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
I don't see.
I do have a brief report.
It's really small. So
You have to see around.
You have a report from Mr. Lane?
I do. Jacob couldn't be with us today, but he wanted to let you know, Senate had their orientation. They had elections the third week of class, so they had their orientation last week. Their first full meeting was last night. The Senate itself operates with 3 committees: a campus improvement committee, the finance committee, and then a campus relations committee that talks about communication, social media, things that you've heard about. So they're staffing their own committees. In addition, they have 12 university committees, everything from representatives to the faculty senate, staff senate, ticket appeals, athletics, that they're selecting members to represent them for. He did want to point out that the projects are complete that they were working on when they talked to you last spring. The 14-foot trophy case down in the Lion's Den was purchased by the Senate. The banners hanging around the Lion's Den advertising the student organizations, and the furniture in the student lounge across from the bookstore. If you haven't seen those, stop by and take a look at those. Those were 3 major projects that they worked on over the last year. So they're in full swing and excited to be up and running for this year.
Okay. Any questions for Darren on behalf of Mr. Lang?
They meet every Wednesday night at 5:30. If you're bored and want to swing by, we'd love to have you.
Thank you, Darren. All right, we had 2 committee meetings this morning concurrently, and I'll call on Governor Flanagan to report for the Academic Affairs Committee.
Yes, so we did have an Academic Affairs Committee, and we discussed a number of things, and some of those are faculty expressions of intent to apply for sabbaticals. We talked about a state-mandated civics test. There was an issue regarding classification of hybrid courses, and then we also had a presentation by Dean Zimmerman on the Plaster School's pursuit of AACSB International Accreditation, and that is Association to Advance Collegiate Business Schools. And you'll hear more about that. But the action that is requested for today is we would ask the board to approve the 2018-2019 faculty handbook. And this includes edits, most of which have already been talked about and presented to this board. So I would make the motion that we approve the faculty handbook.
We have a motion by Governor Flanagan on behalf of the committee. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Governor Rosenberg. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by like sign? Motion carries. Is there anything else, Governor Flanagan? Thank you for your report. And then I'll call on Governor Haley to report for the Budget and Audit Committee.
Yes, this morning we did have a Budget and Audit Committee meeting. We actually had a full agenda. We talked about closing out the previous fiscal year's budget, and so we looked at those numbers for our expected cash. And then we also come forward with several items on how we want to look at potentially adding some financial metrics moving forward for reporting back to the board for itself. We do have 4 proposals that we'd like to bring forward for the board to consider and vote on. My goal is to, I guess I would say these 4 items have been thoroughly discussed. And so we'd like to put these 4 together as one motion for approval. The first is our GGOE line share distribution. So at this point, we recognize and authorize the administration to give a one-time GGOE line share distribution net $750 for full-time and also net $375 for every part-time qualifying employee. The second item is we also approved and revised fiscal year 2019 budget to a budget of $82.6 million. With that includes compensation increase. So we authorize administration to give a greater of 3% or less or minimum of 40 cents across the board increase for all eligible employees effective January 2019. And then an hourly starting wage to start at $10, no less than $10 per hour, also started effective immediately upon our approval. So I'd make a motion to present this to the board to consider those 4 items out of the Financial Budget and Audit Committee.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Governor Haley and a second by Governor Plotnick. Is there any further discussion?
Governor Gibson, I was asked by Governor Franks before he had to leave to say that he is in full support of this, but wanted us to also keep in mind our reserves, our general reserves, and especially our reserves for health insurance, which we are doing very well with. But he wanted to make that comment, and that he is as well.
We'll take that.
The only other discussion that I might bring up that Carlos and I were just discussing too was now that we've moved from 8 meetings to 5 meetings, whether we should have the budget numbers maybe emailed out on a more regular basis since we aren't meeting in person, such as the cash and the statement of finances, so that the board has those and maybe questions can be given back, but not at an actual meeting, because we'll only be meeting 5 times now, so we'll see those numbers a little bit less. So feedback or thoughts about that from the board?
Yes, I agree with that. So Anita and I have talked as well, but I've also met with Rob and Linda about that as well. So I think it's a good idea for the board to be able to see those items since we're having those frequent meetings, and then any concerns we can get together and have a special meeting if necessary.
Okay. Any other questions, comments on the motion that's before the board? I might add that the total, if my notes are correct, Governor Haley, the total on the Great Game Lion share was like $612,000.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. All right. A motion by Governor Haley, second by Governor Plotnick. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Anything else, Governor Haley?
That is it.
Thank you. We will now have a report from Dr. Marble.
Thank you, Governor Gibson. Our report's been covered in general already, but start off with the state budget.
Anything left?
Not much left to say. But a couple of, maybe I should say that the $1.2 million that was originally budgeted for the dental school property with UMKC has been removed because we jointly decided with the University of Missouri system that we would have to abandon our idea, because you recall at first, the very first proposal was $3 million from Missouri Southern, and $1.5 million for UMKC, and just kept whittling down until we got to the point where it didn't make sense for us. So that was part of the adjustment that you're talking about with the budget that we adopted. Department of Higher Education, I just would point out that as we talked about the waiver process through, since we raised tuition above CPI, is that the $30 that we increased is on the books. We won't have to do any further waiver requests in the future to have that available to us. I have a coordinating board item here, and I was unable to attend the last meeting because I had meetings in St. Louis, but missed those because I had a grandbaby come, which was kind of a nice surprise. But Dr. Hudson attended and represented us. And it's the first meeting for former Senator Gary Nodler, who's been appointed to the coordinating board from Southwest Missouri. The coordinating board's broken into areas around the state. And I know that he's going to help them understand some of the things in Senate Bill 389 because he was the author. And it's been a little difficult maybe for people to remember over the decade what the intent of that law particularly was. Also, they presented the 2020 budget, the recommendations that they're going to take to send to the governor as the budget recommendation. If I get this wrong, Brad, correct me. But what I understand is that they're asking for a 4% increase over this year, which is remarkable. This year they asked for no increase, as you'll recall, something I've never heard of before. But it'll go 3% for performance funding and 1% in equity funding. There's an equity formula that Kofi utilizes that I think will be reviewed again this year because it seems to be slanted a little too heavily toward professional and graduate school, and maybe needs some adjustment. There was an adjustment made late in the game to award some for Pell recipients, to have some weight for Pell, but I don't think it changed any of the people. It changed the number that those schools would receive as equity, but an equity formula based upon cost of delivery alone is perhaps questionable in my mind. Because the more upper division courses you have and you limit others that can't offer those, then the more it's going to flow that direction. So I think that's going to be discussed in detail. One of the, I thought, encouraging pieces of the budget rec that's going to go to the governor is about $56 million in workforce development money. And we intend to have our proposal in that mix to see if we can get some of that. I don't know if the budgets will be healthy enough to afford both the 4% increase and $55 million, but if it goes any direction, I suspect it may be toward workforce, because that's what Governor Parson has repeatedly talked about, infrastructure and workforce. So we definitely want to be involved there. You know, and then I have a little section here on the great game, and I don't think there's much that we can say about the great game that hasn't been said, but that none of this would have been possible without it. We wouldn't be getting a lion's share of the 3% was available. When you go back a few years, it's impossible to do these things. So, you know, I certainly want to thank the Culture Committee for the work they've done, and all the employees for everything that we've done. But I want to thank the board too. Take a moment to thank the board for supporting what seemed to be kind of a crazy idea maybe, but something that we could all get together and work on to make something good happen for this university. And at the same time, thank you for the raises that you have authorized, but especially for the $10 starting salary that we've wanted to do for years. It's just something that we couldn't afford until now. So thank you for that. And you know, that was the thing was primarily for hourly workers and in the staff area. But the faculty stood behind it. So I think it tells you something about the culture of this university right now. The strategic plan, I also want to thank the board too for your hard work there. As Grant mentioned earlier, and Angela, they've taken off working on under the 5 goals that you have that align with the blueprint. They're working to flush that out. So we'll have something back for you very, very soon. But I know it took extra meetings. We had you come in several times for things that typically are out of the ordinary, to talk about mission, vision, values, and do SWOT analysis and all the things that we did. So we're very grateful for that kind of board support. And I think I just leave it at that. We just appreciate what you do and the time that you donate to the university, because it's helping us get the job done. So I'll take any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Dr. Marble? Thank you, Dr. Is there any old business to be brought before the board? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to new business. The first up is consideration of academic policy proposal by Dr. Carson.
I unbelievably have no academic policy proposals today. I'll make up for it next time.
You know, that as a reminder maybe to the audience or to people, this is where the proposals that end up in the handbook, this is where they happen every month. So people who aren't familiar with the process, that is the way it works. Or every 2 months, whenever we need.
All right, so next up is school business. Dr. Carson.
So we had the School of Business at our Academic Affairs Subcommittee, and instead for the general board presentation, we have asked Mr. Scott Snell to come and present on our distance learning enterprise. I'm like, okay, did he sneak out?
No, he's still here.
Distance learning is very interesting. It's something this university has been doing long before many other schools were doing. And then I think we started with a bang and maybe sort of satisfies in some of those areas, but lately we've really been trying to pick it up. Yes, we can deliver undergraduate degrees fully online. By the end of the year, we should have at least a path toward the MSM available online. But I'm really delighted with Scott and his team, and Scott is director and then instructional designer. That I'm really, really proud of is how they're working so hard to ensure our quality. We really want to offer convenience for our students, but we want to do it in a way that we know is equivalent in experience and learning as they can get on campus or any other mechanism. So they've rolled out a bunch of new things. They're very vigilant about ensuring that our faculty are actively engaged. which is a Department of Education requirement. And I think because of our quality, we've really been able to grow our quantity and have some exciting future plans to continue to expand. So I'm appreciative, Scott, that you're here to share that with us, and I'm really excited for everyone to hear your updates.
Thank you, Dr. Carson. All right, well, hello, everybody. I'm Scott Snell, Director of Distance Learning, and I'm glad to be here and maybe shed a little light on what's going on in distance education nationally and then here on campus. So, first up is the on switch. There we go. So nationally, there's been an ongoing increase in students that take advantage of online courses. Interestingly, this data is a little bit dated, but I think it's still relevant, and I think the trends will continue in their current arc. And after we look at this, I'll show you our data that kind of picks up where this data leaves off at 2014, and you'll see this nice kind of upward trending line. But so interestingly, as overall higher education enrollment fell by 2% between 12 and 14, distance education enrollment grew by 7% for students taking one and 9% students taking entirely distance classes. So by 2014, more than about 1 in 4 students, 28%, were enrolled in at least one of their classes. And an interesting perception earlier on was that this online education was a for-profit kind of an endeavor and was not part of the public and not-for-profit institutions. But that is not true. As this report showed, the for-profit institutions accounted for less than 1/3 of exclusive distance enrollments, and public institutions accounted for almost half, 48% of classes, 48% of students that took their classes online. The for-profit sector fell in 2014. They fell from being the the for-profit sector almost fell to being the sector with the fewest distance enrollments. So in 2012, they led the private not-for-profit sector by almost 300,000 enrollments. And by 2014, the difference had fallen to 422. So it's not a for-profit endeavor. It is definitely something that public and not-for-profit institutions are integrating into their operations. That's my whole point. So now we'll look at some of our numbers. And you see this first chart here. This is students taking distance classes. And on the left, we have fall, or academic year 13-14, and going across to the right all the way to this current fall semester. And the light green bar is the number of students taking one or more distance classes, and the dark green bar is a subset of that number, and that's our students taking exclusively online classes. And if you're interested in the fall comparison, so yeah, because those are entire academic years, and on the far right there, the fall number, we are up 1 student, okay? But we are up, we are up 1 student taking 1 or more distance classes, but we're up 2% in students taking exclusively distance classes from this fall compared to last fall. There's our credit hour numbers. Again, it's the same timeline. And you see the nice trend up. And interestingly, even though our number of students didn't increase a lot this fall compared to last fall, our credit hours did, both of students taking 1 or more and students taking exclusive distance classes. 1 or more was up 4%, and exclusive distance is up 5%. So you might be interested, and maybe you can't see these. I can't. These are our students taking exclusively online classes. And those are all the states where we have students represented. And of course, we're grouped heavily in the 4-state area. So, how are we accommodating and meeting this growth? This chart here is the same timeline, but what I'm showing you here, the light green bar is fall of 2013, and the dark green bar is this fall. So on the left, in fall of 2013, we had 132 non-duplicated or unique online course offerings. And this fall, that's grown, or in that time period up till now, we now have 146 unique course offerings. And back in fall of 2013, we had 117 unique instructors teaching online, and now we have 134. So, what exactly does that, where is that growth taking place? Here we have a chart with online or distance courses offered by department. Again, the light green is fall of 13, the dark green is this fall. And I've added a few arrows there to kind of show you significant changes in growth of online courses offered. And I typed econ on my highest yellow arrow, and that should say EDUC for education. So my apologies there, but we see criminal justice, education, and marketing have significantly increased the number of classes that they're offering online. Not the number of sections, but whole new course offerings. And I've got an arrow next to over bio and chem because that was a big deal. The bio and chem faculty, many did not believe that effective instruction in their disciplines could take place online. And what those numbers show, the biology added 2 new courses, or 1, and chemistry added 1. And that was long-standing, well-respected science faculty working with instructional designers and tech companies and finding innovative ways to take the lab experience to their online students. And because they were so skeptical, we can really feel confident if they're comfortable in doing it. We can feel confident that it's being done well. So that was a pretty big deal when those 2 went online. And they're doing great by all accounts. Been up a couple of years now. So overall, here at Missouri Southern, we have 13 bachelor's degrees, 9 certificates, and about 20 minors available entirely online or mostly. And what I mean by that is we may not offer one of the sciences that's needed. And in those cases, for example, the Environmental Health and Safety Program, Dr. Mike Fletcher, he knows the science that we teach online, or on ground, not online. He has relationships with online providers where students that do need to complete the degree online, he'll direct them to other institutions where they can pick up this one science and bring it in if they're not able to come onto campus. But most of these degree programs, or most of these programs, are available 100% online. So an important aspect of our online offerings are the general ed courses. And here you see our general education matrix, and all the highlighted courses are ones that we do offer online. And this is significant because pretty much regardless of program, the student can knock out their general education requirements online. And every semester, I get a handful of phone calls from students that are local, and they realize that the conversations always kind of start out like, look, I know I'm going to have to come to campus eventually, but can I take care of some of this online? And these are working adults normally. And I'm just pleased to say, absolutely you can. You can knock out your general education requirements online. And so that is it's very welcome news to a lot of our students. And I think we've got they've got choices in every area, and I think that's the important thing. They're not totally pigeonholed into, you're an online student, so we give you this option for 2A, etc. I think we've got pretty good choices. All right, and this one is a graduate program from the Department of Teacher Education, and it is entirely online. And this, I don't think, online is the perfect platform for this because they've got master adjuncts, and these are professionals working in the field that teach these classes. And the online platform allows them, because of their time constraints, to teach our students. And then it's the same for the students in these programs. And I want to give a shout out to this department because from the very beginning when they decided that these programs were going to be 100% online, they took full advantage of our quality assurance checklist procedure, which I'll explain to you later. And every semester, every single one of their online courses is run through this procedure. And coming soon, the Bachelor of Science of Healthcare Administration. Again, same situation. They will have expert adjuncts in the healthcare community teaching their classes, and the online platform allows these individuals to be able to teach our students. And the same goes for our students who will be working, and this online platform provides them the flexibility to pursue a degree while they're working. Our online offerings have played a significant role in dual enrollment hours. We've got Joplin, Carl, and Diamond all increasing. We've got 3 new areas, Rawls County, Pike County, and Lawrence County. And the dual enrollment hours were up by 57% compared to last year. And that's in large part because of what we offer online, and it works for these students. So, I'm here to show you and tell you that we are poised for continued growth. I think we have the support and the services, the learning management system, and the needed policies and procedures to sustain quality programs and pursue any opportunities for growth in the future. So, support and services. We have 2 well-credentialed instructional designers. We've got a multimedia production specialist, and we have a Blackboard administrator and help desk here in-house. And all of these individuals provide a wide range of support to both students and instructors. We have some great facilities for instructors who want to take their lectures to their online classes. We've got an entire classroom over in Webster Hall that's nicely fitted out with a lot of the latest technology. And we've also got, if they don't want to use a classroom, we've got a little nook, a little area that we can use a green screen, a teleprompter, and Noel Wiseman can whip up some really high-quality, well-produced lecture, multimedia productions. And usually when instructors use this little recording nook, they are customizing their lecture specifically for their online students and class. It's really nice when they take advantage of that. And yeah, we've got plenty of tech in that area, Telecaster and full audio and video production capability. And we've got some software here that allows for the insurance of academic integrity and testing such situations, and a couple of pieces of software that allow teachers to more easily manage their exams and tests, and also bring screen capture and and short videos to their students easily in their online classes. So we do use Blackboard here at school. It's kind of a recognized leader in learning management systems. It's got a great suite of student assessment tools, and they are constantly sniffing around at whatever's going on out in that scene, and they buy them and integrate them into their platform, and they are always adding new features. It's pretty impressive, the technology that they've built into their LMS with student assessment. Rubrics that are integrated in the Grade Center that can be attached and associated with learning objectives, which can be attached to any content you put in the LMS. And what this means is grading is super effective and easy it's easy for the students to pull up this electronic rubric. It's easy for the instructor to use the rubric. It's easy for the instructor to run a student performance report. Just a really nice reporting and learning objective kind of technology they've got in there. They've got a retention center. They've got communication tools, little tricks built into the grade center for easy communication with your students in the case that they need it. If they've missed a certain amount of time before since they've logged in last, it can flag them red. You can email them with a click of a button. If they're low in a grading column, you can email that group of students with a click of a button. Really nice technology. They've got a calendar that shows due dates for all the classes in which they're enrolled. So not just the calendar can be accessed in any class, but it pulls in due dates from all their classes. And they've got an activity stream right when they log in that shows institutional due dates that DL populates into the institutional calendar, as well as it will show them, put front and center what's coming up that day or that week. It's got group functionality where you can put kids in groups and give groups all of the other tools in Blackboard that only that group can see. And it's got Collaborate, which is kind of a go-to meeting, a white space learning tool, webcam video type of thing. So we've got all the technology we need with Blackboard. So so policies and procedures, we've got a distance learning advisory committee that has a dean, myself, DL staff, advising staff, library staff, faculty representation. And what this committee does is when there is a need, something that needs to be addressed as a campus, this committee addresses it. And we've done some great work in the last 2-3 years. We looked at all the testing software. We probably looked at 4 different vendors and made the choice on Respondus Monitor. We developed policy for regular and substantive interaction, which Dr. Carson mentioned is a federal requirement. I think we wrote really excellent policy on that. Academic integrity, and we drafted the handbook, which I think you'll see later. So it's a high functioning and effective, and it's a great committee to work with. And they do a lot of good work, and it's been a pleasure. The DL handbook thoroughly covers expectations, procedures and policies. It links out to resources. I keep it in the cloud, so when anybody ever needs it, they click on that link, they get the absolute latest. It's a very good document. It links to all the resources, software, just anything a teacher that's teaching online, any question they have, I think that handbook should answer. The quality assurance checklist. I have to thank Dr. Carson for this initiative. It was something that she felt we needed as a school, and I agree. And since we've implemented it, its value just kind of has grown exponentially. It starts out as one thing, but then I find, what we do over here just kind of fits in the framework of what we do with this quality assurance procedure. It's just outstanding. It addresses so many needs. And what it is it's a checklist that checks for, is the Blackboard course functioning correctly? Has the instructor set it up so the calendar will work? So the tools that are there for the students, do they work? Because that takes attention from the instructor. So it checks on that, and then it also checks on, is the instructor present? Because that's vitally important for quality. So it's a relatively quick procedure to go through a checklist on a course, and then we make recommendations. Everybody is pulled into the loop. The department chair, the dean, the instructor, the instructional designer, everybody's in the loop, and at max, recommendations are implemented within 2 weeks. Normally, it's just within a week, because we mail out our recommendations with the checklist, and in a week we do a follow-up. And normally by then, everything's been fixed. So every semester we hit approximately, we randomishly select 10% of the courses, and we run it for those courses. And then also, if there is ever a concern brought by a student to my office, to the ACTS office, to Dr. Carson, to a department chair, to anybody, that it will initiate this procedure, and the student concerns can get addressed within a week usually. And a lot of times, maybe the student's concerns were unfounded. But it's just a very effective procedure, and I'm so happy to have it because so much of what we do now just kind of fits in the framework of that procedure. It just makes sense. It's great. I love it. When an instructor successfully implements all of our recommendations, that instructor has demonstrated that they can operate and teach effectively online, and they get our Blackboard Green certification. So the course gets a banner, the instructor gets certified. It's a very positive experience. We've also got a Blackboard Gold certification that's kind of next level, and that's where an instructor demonstrates a lot of the assessment tools that I mentioned earlier with the reporting and the alignments of objectives to the rubrics, can demonstrate really rigorous academic integrity. So it's kind of next level. We don't have a gold yet. We are developing and kind of fostering our first gold faculty recipients this semester. Oh, that's it, good. So any questions, and I know it may be late, but if you have online classes, and this whole thing can be kind of this black box, and I'm happy to show you anything, or if you have any questions about what a class looks like, or just anything. But if not, that's fine too.
You have one question. This trend, you say it's going to continue. Is it going to be a steady increase? Is it a 1-2%, or what do you think is going to happen over the next 5 years as far as online learning?
I think it's going to be relatively steady. I don't think we're at because with teacher education's graduate program, with the plans of Dr. Schooler and his health center and the programs online's going to play a big part in that. And I just think that opportunities are going to keep presenting themselves to where we can grow. We'll have opportunities to maintain this growth, I think.
Is the growth greater for non-trads versus traditional students?
I'm sorry?
Non-traditional students versus traditional first-year students?
Our average student, the demographic, this male is approximately 26, 27, and the female is 27, 28. So on average, the students taking online classes are non-traditional working adults.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Snell? Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Is there any other new business to be brought before the board? Draw your attention to the future meeting dates, November 15, January 31, March 14, and June 20. We have need for executive session today, and if you'll bear with me, I'll do my best to read this into the record. A closed executive session can be held in BSC 343 for the purposes of RSMO 610.021 subsection 2 relating to leasing, purchase, or sale of real estate by a public governmental body where public knowledge of the transaction might adversely affect the legal consideration thereof. Therefore, RSMO 610.021 subsection 3 relating to the hiring, disciplining, or promoting of particular employees by a public governmental body when personal information about the employee is discussed or recorded. I'd entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Governor Elliott, Governor O'Plotman. Is there any discussion? Have the board secretary call the roll.
T. Mark Elliott.
Here.
Tracy Flanagan.
Yes.
Mike Franks. Bill Gibson.
Yes.
Carlos Haley.
Yes.
Allison Dershowitz. Anita Albuquerque.
Yes.
And Dr. Rosenberg.
Yes.
We will adjourn to BSC 343 for the closed session. Thank you all.
Deep.